Okay. Welcome to It's in the Book 7 p.m. study meeting. My name is Eileen, and I am an alcoholic. Everybody, please join me in a moment of silent meditation to reflect on why we are here. And now I get to introduce Meredith, our discussion leader.
Hey, everybody. My name's Meredith. I'm an alcoholic. I'm passing a card around for a member of our group that watches us on Zoom on Saturday mornings. If you don't know her, you can still just put your name, put a whole bunch of names on there. She'll be freaked out. Be great. And just get it back up to here by the end of the meeting. That'd be fine.
The card is for her anniversary.
20 years. Yeah. I remember when she came in. See, I'm old enough to say that now. That's a shame. All right, so we're studying the big book. I was taught to study it to diagnose myself, to make sure I'm in the right book, in the right meeting, the right fellowship, and yep, I am. And in the beginning, what I like to do to recap what we've learned is ask like a Q&A, and it's an open book quiz. You'll find these in the book, which if you remember from school, those are the hardest quizzes. I don't know how they managed to do that, but it's always harder. So the first question I would have is, where is the first promise that's offered in this book? All right, so what page is that on? It's the title page. Looks like this. It's the title page. It's got the title on it. All right, and it's the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. I was told a story of how, because I don't know, and recovered as in regaining something lost like health. Okay, and then the next question is, what kind of a book it's? Okay, there we go. We got people out there in Zoom land. Just so you know, we got Zoomers out there, and we got a textbook holler out of there. And it's true, it's on the preface, page XI, second paragraph, because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recovery. There exists strong sentiment in any radical changes being made in it. And a text is an instruction manual, something we study from and then put into practice. Okay? What have we recovered from? Where is it in the book? Very good. Forward to the first edition. That's good. Forward to the first edition. It starts off as we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, which means we are mentally and physically ill right out of the gate. They give us that much already. And then it goes on to say, to show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. Precisely how, which means exactly and without mistake. So if we follow the directions precisely, we should get what they got. And when they use the word we in this book, they mean the authors of the book, the first 40 to 100 alcoholics whose combined experience went into the writing of this book. All right. Okay. What is vital to permanent recovery? Where's that? It's an open book. Oh. All right. It's on XVII. All right. It starts at the bottom.
Use work.
Okay. So Bill had this theory that only an alcoholic could help another alcoholic as no non-alcoholic could. Think about your recovery even here. The most unique recovery process is between sponsor and sponsee, not therapist and patient, not preacher and petitioner, but this unique therapy here is one alcoholic with another, right? And so he had this theory that that's what it's going to take. And then when Dr. Bob recovered, it proved that theory. And then it says, but it also proved, that's why it says it also indicated at the top of XB, strenuous work, one alcoholic with another, vital to permanent recovery, which was great news to me because I didn't even know you could use the word permanent in AA. All right, we're starting on page XX. We are finishing up the forward to the second edition, which is mainly about the growth of AA since its inception 16 years prior. All right. And they're filling people in on what we are. And so we've just finished reading about how there's been worldwide acceptance of this movement because there's been recovered families, reunited homes. There's been great support from other agencies like religion and medicine because they've seen the value of it. So it's starting to gain some momentum.
Okay, XX. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a religious organization. Neither does AA take any particular medical point of view, though we cooperate widely with the men of medicine as well as with the men of religion. Alcohol being no respecter of persons, We are an accurate cross-section of America, and in distinct lands. The same democratic evening up process is now going on. By personal religious affiliation, we include Catholics, Protestants, Jews, Hindus, and a sprinkling of Muslims and Buddhists. More than 15% of us are women.
In 2017, that number was 38%.
Anyone know any? That's 17 is a long time ago.
I know, but that's the last number.
Right? I'm sorry.
I don't, Darren. Let's all stop while you Google it.
My phone is off.
They,
Anyway, anyone find it though, let us know. At present, our membership is pyramiding at the rate of about 20% a year. So far, upon the total problem of several million actual and potential alcoholics in the world, we have made only a scratch. In all probability, we shall never be able to touch more than a fair fraction of the alcoholic problem in all its ramifications. Upon therapy for the alcoholic himself, we surely have no monopoly. Yet it is our great hope that all those who have as yet found no answer may begin to find one in the pages of this book, and will presently join us on the high road to a new freedom.
all right, so it's staying kind of steady at 2 million something. It's kind of fluctuated up and down, and with COVID, the numbers kind of got weird. They only do a sort of general survey every 10 years, I believe, and I don't know when the next one's due. And all they can do is survey groups that are in existence that are registered with the GSO. So there's a lot of groups that aren't even registered with the GSO that are out there. So we never really know how many, but where they talk about we probably will only never get much more than a fraction reached. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them being we don't have enough people to do it. There's not enough money to do it. We don't have the financial backing we really need to get it out there. And we don't have enough people that are sober through the 12 steps that are willing to carry the message. So it's on many levels, very difficult to reach everybody. But I know that with Zoom, it certainly has reached more corners, and there's been more of this cross section of people together in it. It's now people are on meetings with all kinds. On Monday nights, I do this traditions meeting, and there's people from all over the world on that thing. It's wild. All right, but what I like is the very end of this chapter talks about upon therapy to the alcoholic himself, we surely have no monopoly. So what that means is that Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program is not the only therapeutic message to recover, but it is the most effective. It is the most effective. And it says we don't have a monopoly. There's other ways to get sober. Some people get sober with therapy. Some people get sober through the church. But this, like I said, this is the most effective. It has the greatest number of successes. But what it does say, yet it is our great hope that all those who have as yet found no answer may begin to find one in the pages of this book. Look everywhere. I mean, this is the last place I wanted to come. Try everything and run the wheels off it. And sometimes we have to try this more than once, right? We think that AA is coming to meetings, right? Or we think, I don't really need a sponsor in steps. That's for the really sick ones. I'm fine. It takes what it takes to get us to realize that I haven't found an answer. And I need to find the one. It says it's going to offer one in the pages of this book, okay? And it says we'll begin to find one. So the 12 steps lead us to the answer, which is a spiritual awakening, which is a reconnection with something bigger that connects us all to one another. And then it says, find the answer and can presently join us on the high road to a new freedom. I love how this book sneaks stuff in there before we're even ready for it. Like it's already said, hey, you're mentally and physically ill. Good luck with that. And then it says here, you can join us on the high road, which is you stop drinking and you act better. The high road is the honorable or ethical course. It's not just stop drinking, it's stop drinking and behave right. I'll be the first to tell you I had situational ethics. They came and went as the meme indicated in the moment. And a high road to a new, and the 9-step promise is talking about this new freedom. And I love to really think about that on occasion because I forget what I've been relieved of. I forget what I've been released from already. The simple thing, the mind racing not happening, and it's easier to go to sleep and not being all caught up in resentments and go around in a circle over the same thing. The freedom from the chaos just in my mind. I mean, that's where the problem really is, right? So It says, stick around and we can get on the high road to a new freedom.
I'm Eileen alcoholic. I love the fact that it says if you get found out the answer, may you find one in the pages of this book. That really was what was missing for me the first time I came in. I was in meetings, I didn't drink, but I wasn't in the book. No one really ever, I mean, I had it, I think I had it somewhere. I might have pulled it out now and then, but just to sit here and read the book through it's kind of like sleeper. It puts you to sleep. It's like if you read the Bible, it'll put you to sleep. So at least for me, it did. And it wasn't until I found no answer. Whatever I was doing, I mean, I had a lot of years dry, and I never did get a sponsor, so I know I wasn't working it, but I never knew about the book. And it talks about when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So when we finally are really, really, truly ready, and I know that our higher power knows that, like when we're really, really are ready, that power will meet us. And that's what happened that night for me. I went to a meeting. I was really at the end of myself. And this girl came up and gave me her number. And I asked her to be my sponsor. And she sent me to this book study. And that's almost 20 years ago. And it was revelating to me. I mean, I remember reading things in this book that I had no idea that I had a thinking disease as well as a drinking disease. I had no idea of what we suffer from. And they talk about it like it's a design for living that works. There is so much more to this than just putting down the drink. And that we are so short changing ourselves if that's all we do. And that's what I did for a really long time until I drank again, which turned out to be a blessing because then it just really proves to you you need to be here, whether you want to or not. But I just love that I try and bring all of my sponsees and people that I meet along the way that don't really know about a book study or don't really even make it part of their ritual, that it's really important that the answers are here. You can see yourself in the pages of this book. It's really, really, you're shortchanging yourself if you don't. Anyways, here you go.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, from our comments, we know that the solution somehow is in this book. And yet a lot of people are afraid of it. And there's a couple of different kinds of book studies. You'll have a book study like this where we read the blackboard on the white paper and try to figure out what it's actually saying and then apply it to our lives. And then there's a big book discussion meeting where you read a paragraph and you all discuss your experience with it. So it's really two different types of things. And for me, I hear people introduce me, and they'll say she really knows the book and blah, 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 blah. It's because I read it every day. And it's because I've read it every Saturday morning for 28 years. You're going to learn it if you read it like that. And then when you realize that what it's offered works, I'm on fire with it. I just love this. And because it's proof to me that it absolutely works. And so that just gives me more impetus to read it more. Now I'm trying to get more familiar with the back pages because the first 80, I pretty much know, but it doesn't do any good if I don't put it into practice. Okay. And so that's the other thing. When people are calling me and talking about going through this fear or this resentment, I'm like, did you apply the formula? Was it? And it's the 10th step, right? It says do this and then do this. Then call. See how you're doing then. So anyway, so now we're going to go into the Forward to the Third edition, and this actually addresses something more specifically about what the book offers. So we'll look for the central idea in the Forward to the Third edition.
Okay, Forward to the Third edition. By March 1976, when this edition went to the printer, the total worldwide membership of Alcoholics Anonymous was conservatively estimated at more than 1 million, with almost 28,000 groups meeting in over 90 countries. Surveys of groups in the United States and Canada indicate that AA is reaching out not only to more and more people, but to a wider and wider range. Women now make up more than 1/4 of the membership. Among newer members, the proportion: 7% of the AA surveyed are less than 30 years of age. Among them, many in their teens. The basic principles of the AA program, it appears, hold good for individuals with many different lifestyles, just as the program has brought recovery to those of many different nationalities. The 12 steps that summarize the program may be called, my Spanish friend,
Dos cosas.
in one country, who's thank you in another, but they trace exactly the same path to recovery that was blazed by the earliest members of Alcoholics Anonymous. In spite of the great increase in the size and the span of this fellowship, at its core, it remains simple and personal. Each day, somewhere in the world, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another alcoholic, sharing experience, strength, and
Not piss, moan, and complain. That was the only thing my sponsor wanted me to write in that on this page was not piss, moan, and complain. And that's why you shouldn't let me share in the early meetings. I thought sharing was like group therapy. It's like, just say what's on your mind. Just throw it out there. And that's not what we do here. But anyway, what I love about this forward is that it talks about, first of all, in the second paragraph, that AA is reaching out. And it reminds me, as an individual, I need to reach out. Just like at World Services, they reach out. Just like they translate the literature into another language so that they can reach more. There is an initiative coming from us to reach out. And there's an individual responsibility in that. And so I always like to read this and see, well, how can I apply this to me, right? And then it talks about the proportions. We're getting about a little over a third for women in here. And then on the third paragraph talks about the basic principles of the program. Basic principles of the program. So a lot of people say that the principles are the steps themselves. And some will say there's principles behind the steps. And first of all, what's a principle? We got to know what that is or we're going to be a little lost, right? So a principle is an accepted code for behavior. It's a generally accepted rule for behavior, even though we don't enforce it as rules. Principles are codes for conduct. So it's going to tell us these are how we act differently. And see, that's the thing about finally working this program. We can go to meetings and we can attend IOP classes and we can learn all about this stuff, but we're not going to experience a conversion. We're not going to experience a spiritual awakening, a personality change if we don't do things that are going to change that. What did we say, Jen? Move a muscle, change a thought. So these are guides for how to act, all right? And program is used 3 times in this paragraph. So the central idea of the forward to third edition is that the program is the same worldwide, and that's what makes us recover. It's the same everywhere, whether you say it in Spanish or French. Okay? And that's what it says. The 12 steps says summarize the program. That's a summary. And a summary is a condensed version of a larger scope of work, which is this. Okay? My friend Dante says, the best thing they ever did for AA was put the 12 steps on the wall. The worst thing they ever did for AA was put the 12 steps on the wall. There's more to it than that. But what I like what it says here, it goes on to say, no matter how you say it, they trace exactly the same path to recovery that was blazed by the earliest members of Alcoholics Anonymous. You get a sense that there was not a clear path through. They did this through trial and error, and they finally got something down that seemed to work, and that's when they put it in print. And a path is a walkway that is made by one set of footsteps following another. When I first came in here, I got a little bit concerned about, do I have to be in agreement with everybody? Do I have to believe everything everybody says? And the more I listened, the more variation there was, and it was simpler. I heard someone speak and I kind of went, that did. I don't know what it is, but that's, and I thought, maybe if I followed that, and that was one path, one set of footsteps. And that enabled me then to reach out. But I had to start with, following. And so I followed the same path that was blazed by the person in front of me. And then it reminds me what's at the core of this program. It doesn't say hitting a meeting a day. It doesn't say 90 meetings in 90 days. It doesn't say service. It says at the core, which means at the center of this whole thing, it's simple and personal. Each day, somewhere in the world, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another, sharing experience, strength, and hope with another, not at another. Okay, so there's a sharing, there's an exchange, and both of us are going to experience that recovery. I feel a whole lot better after spending an hour or two with sponsee than however I felt before. Even if I felt great before, I feel even better now. There's a purpose to things. There's like a sense of accomplishment and a sense that this is something. Later in the book, it says, this sets our feet in the path that really goes somewhere. The path goes somewhere. And that's how I feel when I'm doing this. And what it does is it illuminates all the rest of my life. It makes it all just bigger. So we want to remember that at the core, it's simple and personal. So if we're not doing this at the core, we're not doing it. And we need to do it. The world needs us. There's a lot of empty chairs in here, right? So if everybody that came here actually did it and would pass it on, we'd have more people recovering. And just like this thing I shared with you yesterday, that reading talks about, if more people were just trying to follow God's plan, we'd have a happier world. It's like, get them all on board. Everybody get in the boat. So at the core is this program, the recovery program. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Am I going on?
Okay. Now I'm going to do something. And this is because I'm going to have a great debate with this guy, Cliff, in July. He talks about the forward to the fourth edition and it has a different opinion completely. He says the forward to the fourth edition is a pitch to sell pamphlets. And I don't know how he got that out of this, because what I see is this is about the big book. So what I'm going to do is I am going to let Eileen read, but I'm going to mutter big book every time she uses a phrase that also means big book, just so we can see that we got the idea. Okay.
Okay.
So good luck.
Forward to the fourth edition.
Big book.
Okay. The fourth edition of
Big book.
Alcoholics Anonymous
Big book.
came off press in November 2001 at the start of the new millennium. Since the third edition was published in 1976, worldwide membership of AA has just about doubled to an estimated 2 million or more, with nearly 100,800 groups. Thank you. Meeting in approximately 150 countries around the world. Literature has played a major role in AA's growth, and a striking phenomenon of the past quarter century has been the explosion of translations of our basic literature into many languages and dialects. In country after country where the AA seed was planted, it has taken root, slowly at first, then growing by leaps and bounds when literature has become available. Currently, Alcoholics Anonymous has been translated into 43 languages. As the message of the free has reached large numbers of people, it has also touched the lives of a vastly greater variety of suffering alcoholics. When the phrase, "we are people who normally would not mix," in page 17 of
Big book.
it was written in 1939, it referred to a fellowship composed largely of men and a few women with quite similar social, ethnic, and economic backgrounds. Like so much of AA's
Big book.
those words have proved to be far more visionary than the founding members could have ever imagined. The stories added to this edition represent a membership whose characteristics of age, gender, race, and culture have widened and have deepened to encompass virtually everyone the first 100 members could have hoped to reach. While our
You have to read it.
literature has preserved the integrity of AA's message, sweeping changes in society as a whole are reflected in new customs and practices within the fellowship. Taking advantage of technical advances, for example, AA members with computers can participate in meetings online, sharing with fellow alcoholics across the country or around the world. In any meeting anywhere, AA shared experience, strength, and hope with each other in order to stay sober and help other alcoholics. Modem to modem or face to face, speak the language of the heart in all its power and simplicity.
So what's the fourth edition about? The contribution that this book made to recovery when it was present. This is the AAC. This is where it starts. And they're using the word literature, got this guy off track apparently, who does this book study out on Zoom in the Midwest, and somehow has interpreted it differently. But I don't see that at all. I see that it's a big book that has caused the growth, which has triggered all of the translations. In 2021, it says 43 languages here. In 2017, there were 70. And in 2021, there were 71 languages. It just keeps going. Okay. They're coming out with the 5th edition. So, this is the answer. And they don't do, if you look at the front of this thing where it talks about the printings, just after the title page, on the backside of the title page, copyrighted in 39, and then again in 55, 76, and 2001. Those have all the forwards, right? And then it has the first edition has 16 printings. The second edition has 16 printings. Third edition, 74 printings. I have the 38th printing. Anybody have something bigger than 38? The backside of the title page. 42nd printing. They don't do 30 and 40 printings of books that suck. People read them. That's unbelievable. And that's why anybody with the book in their hand, even if I've heard the experience of just people that are in sober living who sit in the living room and read the book, 2 people, how much more they get out of it than when they're just by themselves. 2 people in a dictionary app. You'd be surprised. And it gets you excited because there's some power in it. All right. So anyway, I also want to talk about the second page where it says, while our literature has preserved the integrity of the AA message. Integrity means soundness and completeness and wholeness. So if you're looking for this soundness and completeness of the message, sometimes you hear something a little incomplete or a little unsound in general sharing. We're not all in the same place. But if you read this book, it's going to have a solid message that reiterates. It's going to be consistent, and there won't be anything lacking. And so if you really want the full message, read the book. And then it says there are sweeping changes in the fellowship. That's where we get stuff like keep coming back. It works if you work it. That's where we get weeping. All right. But the book will keep it kind of on track. And then I love too, where it says, why do we share experience, strength, and hope? To stay sober and in order to help other alcoholics. And the word sober has a very wide definition. It does mean without any intoxicating chemicals in your body. It also means a degree of moderation and seriousness. But there's the Big Book Dictionary has a definition about this big, and luckily there's just enough room on that page to put it. And my last book I used, it's written there, the definition of sober, and it's pretty interesting. Eileen's gonna read it. Oh, Jen's got it.
And you can read. Being sober and physically means one have not consumed any alcoholic beverage whatsoever for a period of time. It is generally undefined, but usually long enough that noticeable changes in one's behavior, attitudes, and thinking may occur. It may also just use to include various common characteristics listed below, which are examples of traditional dictionary definitions for the word sober: not drunk or intoxicated, reasonable, rational, real, practical, without indifference or seriousness, and ignorant. Having no illusions or facing reality in a straightforward way, characterized by self-control or sin.
Wow. So, when I see that, I think I got to keep coming, the idea of having no illusions. One of the ones I really like is not having indifference where a certain amount of concern is needed. Like I used to say, I don't give a about that again. When really, I need to give a darn about that. I don't care what you think of me. There are times when seriousness is indicated, where indifference is not the sober thought. I need to be involved in concern, depending on how close it is related to me. So I love that one, not having a difference where the right amount of concern is needed or something. And then also, what's the other part?
Without indifference to sincerity.
Yeah, and right before that, without excess or exaggeration, reasonable, practical. It means, yep, I've been not drinking for 30 days and I'm not going home on the weekends and screaming at my family. There's a behavior change. That's what it says. An unspecified time, but long enough that noticeable changes in one's behavior, attitudes, and thinking may occur. And honestly, I don't think that happens just with the passage of time. I think that's exactly what these steps do. That's what we're counting on. I can't just come to meetings and hope I'm going to be darling. I need all forces, all hands on deck, which will allow me to change in spite of myself. Yeah, sober. That's very sober.
It says there's 182 page entries in the big book with the word sober. It's a lot.
Yeah. Must be in the stories.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, anyone?
Hey,
Come on.
thank you. Thank you. And everybody, we're out of time, so I can't tell you about my experience with Fabio in Italy.
Maybe next week.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for their meeting.
Thanks for coming. Out.